The Guardian of Darkness is an action-adventure game that was developed and published by Cryo Interactive for the PlayStation in 1999 that takes on the role of a monk as being part of an occult organisation who is tasked with facing and defeating supernatural entities, which will take you across a total of the 10 missions that are within the game, where you have to complete a variety of different objectives, defeat these supernatural spirits, but also to unlock and to find out more about the game's story and lore. The game plays from a third-person perspective, and combat is mainly through the use of spells and magical abilities, but you will have to acquire different elements in order to replenish your abilities as you progress, as they can waste out very quickly. But there are also other gameplay quirks involved. When you're searching for items, the game can transition into like a point and click style event as you search for items, especially like on desks or within hidden areas, because you will need to find these items either from documents with passwords or keys that'll help you to unlock further areas of progression. Because as you venture into each level, you're usually met with a lot of restrictive elements, with doors being locked and barricades being put up, so you have to find a way around them or to move them out of the way, which will require a lot of backtracking and puzzle solving in order to complete these objectives. When the game was released, it wasn't met with the best of reviews, often seeing it as a very poor quality game. It does have some interesting ideas, however, but most critics were mainly disappointed at the consistency of low quality titles that were being developed by Cryo, as we all know in many cases, and it has been covered by a lot of other YouTubers, that they weren't known as the best developers. They did have some interesting ideas, mind you, don't get me wrong, but the games that they did publish both on the PlayStation and even on the PC generally weren't the most polished or fleshed out games out there. They usually always came with poor graphics, clunky controls, and just bad gameplay, and that's just being honest. But aside from that, it's like anything else. A lot of these games do have interesting ideas, and if you dive deep enough into them and put a bit of time, and if you're patient, that's the most important thing that you need to understand with these games, is that you do need to be patient, because they will frustrate you because they are clunky as hell. But if you can dive into it long enough, you will find some very interesting concepts that you probably won't see in any other games, even to the current day. But again, that just boils down to people's perception and if they're willing to give this their time. Not a lot of people will, but there are people out there that will give it a try. Like myself, I like these quirky elements of games. Yes, I know these games are frustrating, don't get me wrong, and I totally agree with that, but I always like the peculiar and often overlooked elements of games. The things that usually people would find annoying, I find them enjoyable to a degree. Now, it's not to say that I have much patience with games either these days, and I generally don't, but I'm always willing to give them a go. And I often found that games that people would hate, I'd always find elements of them that I liked. Now, my perception of things is totally different. I always try to see positives where it's valid, if you will. I don't just jump on the bandwagon like a lot of people do and just slate a game just because everyone else is doing it. No, we all have our own opinions and we should stand by them. Like, yes, if we don't like a game, that's perfectly valid, that's totally fine, each to their own. But if there are elements of a game that you do like, don't be afraid to share it. If people hate on you for it, well, then that's on them, and that's more to do with them than it is to do with you, because at the end of the day, you're not doing anything wrong, you're just sharing your opinion and having a bit of fun along the way. That's what I do. But aside from that, yeah, the game has its quirks. It's not the best game on the PlayStation, far from it, but it does have some interesting ideas. But although they're not always apparent from the beginning, sometimes you can be left completely stumped as to what to do next, and I often found that.
Hi, I'm Professor McRandall. I was told...
I remember back in the day, a mate of mine got it fairly cheap now, I won't say well, but we managed to play it, and we got so far into the first couple of levels, but yeah, you got to a point where you just got completely stumped and you weren't really sure what to do, because I think we were drawn in by the fact is when you look at the game case and you seen the dark, gritty graphics and atmospheric elements that were portrayed in them, and sure, at that time, anything that related to survival horror or anything at that caliber, sure, most of us were all in, because we were huge fans of Resident Evil or anything that looked or played like Resident Evil. You were always willing to give it a go. Now, mind you, we did play some titles on the PlayStation that, yeah, were questionable, and this being one of them. But to say that we hated them, no, we didn't really. Yeah, we probably put them down and didn't play them for a long time after that, but it never said that we really hated them. It just got to a point where we just could not figure out for the life of us what to do next. And that's usually the problem with a lot of these games, is that there's a lot of trial and error involved, because most of the puzzles that are intertwined into the game's narrative don't always give you the best solution solutions to the problems, and that's where you're left kind of scratching your head trying to figure things out. But luckily enough, in the modern day, if you dive deep enough, you'll find guides for the game, or you might even find a couple of videos where people have played it and managed to finish it, so there will be a couple of walkthroughs available if that's something you do need help with. I'll be honest, I find that I have to do that every so often, and even more so with these older games, because I still get stuck on them. I still struggle with certain elements with regards to puzzles, and I often find myself having to look elsewhere to try and find help, because I do want to finish the games, I do want to play them, because at the time when I'm playing them, funny enough, I'm getting into them and I'm enjoying them, so I want to achieve everything in the game, or at least try to finish it. And sometimes you just need that little bit of help and guidance in order to achieve that. But it is what it is. That's just the reality of things. Not everything is perfect, not everything is set in stone, and our time is precious, so we have to make the most of it. And even if it means that we do have to look for a little bit of help in order to get that and achieve that, then so be it. Now, where I would like games like this, other people wouldn't, and that's totally fine. Each their own. That's the way I see it. But regardless of what I think of the game, I would love to hear what everyone else's thoughts are of the game. Was this a game that you played back in the day? Did you own it? Did you enjoy it? Or did you hate it? I would love to hear your stories of it, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around more unusual and quirky games like this that were released on the PlayStation, then you make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can also check out this playlist here on screen to see a lot more of those games in action that I have covered previously on the channel. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.